Hello guys, welcome back. So today you can see that I have a used utility pole back here, and we're going to repurpose this to put a dust till dawn light on it in our new laydown area. Now this utility pole, I got this about a year ago, and when it was taken out of the ground, it wasn't because the pole was bad. It was because the utility company was running additional wires and they actually needed to have a taller pole. So this pole was too short. They took it out of the ground. They put a taller one in its place. So we picked this up. It's been sitting here for about a year. Hopefully it's still in good shape. But as you can see, it still has a bunch of hardware that is attached to this pole. So I want to get all that hardware off of there before I go and put it in the ground. So any hardware that they use on a telephone pole, they typically put a bolt all the way through the pole. So you can see the bolt will go all the way through. There'll be a nut and a big flat washer on the other side. And instead of trying to wrench on those rusty bolts, I'll probably just take an angle grinder and we'll just cut all this hardware off of there. Now, for some reason when they pulled it out of the ground, they tried to cut the butt end of it off. Obviously any rot that happens on a tree is most likely going to be on the part that's in the ground. But when they cut it off, it obviously snapped and broke. So it's got a jagged end on it. So I'm going to take a chainsaw, we'll make that nice and flat on that end. And then we'll take it over to the laydown area where we'll start getting our hole augered out of the ground for this pole. And we may try to actually put the light on it before I put the pole in the ground. That's probably a little bit risky because there's a chance I could break the light and damage it, but we'll just have to wait and see. But let's go ahead and start by cutting all this hardware off of it. So I was able to get the utility pole hauled down the driveway and set down here where we're gonna install it. I measured the pole. It's now a 24-foot long pole, so that's a pretty wide load to get down the driveway. So I did have to kind of maneuver the tractor back and forth to get it around trees and posts and certain things, but I was able to get it down here without having to go get a chain or anything extra. So I was kind of just being lazy. But the next thing to do is to drill a hole in the ground to set the pole, and we're gonna put a PTO driven auger on the back of the tractor. We're gonna put on a 12-inch auger bit. So it's gonna drill a hole about this big around, and it should just barely be big enough for this pole to go down in that hole. So we're gonna try to go as deep as we can with it. So we can probably get close to 4-foot deep hole, and then that'll leave about 20 feet of the utility pole sticking up, which should work out fine. That'll work out great for a dusk till dawn light in this location. So I've never used the 12-inch auger before. This will be the first time using that big of an auger. And there was a bunch of trees here I cut down, so there may be roots in the ground. So this may end up being more difficult. We'll just have to see how well it goes. So let's go ahead, hook the auger onto the tractor. So that went fairly well, a lot better than I thought it would. It didn't even seem like I hit a root at all, so I must have just picked the right spot. So it drilled just fine. I got it as deep as I could get it, and it's just under 4 feet deep. But the problem of it is that it's not a straight up and down hole. It is got kind of an angle to it. So if I put my utility pole in there now, considering the pole is almost exact same size as the hole, my pole will be leaning. So I was able to reposition the tractor and cut out the side of this hole so it's nice and plumb now. And surprisingly enough, I was able to get most of the dirt out of the hole with the auger bit. Now, I don't know if you guys could tell, but when the looser that hole gets, the more that bit wants to bounce around and the tractor gets shaken. It gets kind of rough. And I'm really kind of afraid I would bust a shear pin or something in the auger with all that bouncing around. But it did the job, got the dirt out of the hole. It looks pretty good. So now I'm ready to go ahead and set my pole. Now I was thinking about go ahead and putting my dusk till dawn light on the pole, but this is 24 feet long and I'm going to be lifting it with a tractor to try to get it in the hole. I don't have anything else to set this pole with. So I've decided not to put the lights on there yet. I'm going to do that after the pole is set. So I'm not very happy with the way things are going so far. So I can see where somebody could kill themselves very easily trying to do this with the tractor. You just don't have the height to lift the pole in. You end up with it almost counterbalanced in a way. So when you slide the pole, you're sliding the pole down in the hole. You end up with more of the utility pole on that side over the tractor past the pivot point where it could pivot and then flatten the driver, basically, which is me. I mean, I could see where I could easily get this where there's more weight on the top and then it flipped back and hit me. So don't want that to happen. So I'm stopping, I'm rethinking everything. And I mean, this is because we don't have the right equipment, right? I mean, I don't have a bucket truck to be able to grab the pole at the very top end and lift it way up and put it into the, you know, and lift and put it right in the hole. So the hole itself, as I've been jacking around with this, I keep on knocking more and more dirt in there. It's actually only 3 feet deep now. It's just not deep enough. And really 4 feet is not deep enough either. So I've been thinking about it, and the way I understand it, and don't quote me on this, okay, is that for a pole, a good rule of thumb is to dig 4 feet plus 10% of the length. So if this is 25 feet, you would add 2.5 feet to that. You would need at least a 6.5 foot deep hole. So I need to go deeper with my hole, and I'm also thinking about digging a trench. Now this may sound like a lot of extra work, but if I start a trench here and angle it down into that hole, I'll be able to kind of get the pole down into the hole before I really start lifting. And then it'll be down inside of there, get it kind of wedged in there, and then there won't be a chance of it flipping back at me. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking about doing, but I think I'm going to call it a day. We'll come back in the morning and re-hit this again. Let me think about this overnight. We're going to try to find a safe way to be able to lift this utility pole in the hole using a tractor. Okay, I think I've got everything ready to try to set the utility pole again. So we've got a trench dug out that leads to the post hole, and we've dug this post hole out as deep as we could get it with a manual post hole digger. That's only 5 feet deep, but that's pretty much all I could get it, as far down as I could. So I've put a 2x6 in here in the back side of this, and the reason being is before the post would want to go to the back of the hole and dig in, and then it wouldn't want to go down in the hole, and or it would help push dirt into the hole. So this is going to give me something firm for the pole to be able to bump against and then slide down the board into the hole. Hopefully it'll slide down fairly smoothly and not knock any of this dirt into the bottom of the hole. And the trench, the reason I have the trench, we're going to lay our post, our utility pole, we're going to lay it right here. And as I lift up on it, it'll go in and hit that board. It'll already be a good 2 feet in the hole before I really even start getting lifting up on it a lot. So I think that'll just help as I really get this thing lifted up. The pole should already be a good, you know, it'll be down in here before I really get lifting on the pole. It'll be a good 3 feet down in the hole or so. A lot less chance of it kicking back and back on the tractor. So I think this will end up being a little bit safer. I am alone doing this, so just trying to make this as best as I can for doing this by myself. So the pole's in the bottom of the hole. It's slightly leaning this way, but I'm going to go ahead and shove a little dirt around the sides in here before I try to straighten it up. I'm going to step back and take a look at it, see if it looks good from all angles. Well, I don't know what it looks like in the camera, but it looks pretty good. If anything, it's leaning maybe just slightly this way. Now it's rinse and repeat. Just keep on putting dirt in, tamp a layer, put another layer in, and tamp it. This went way better than yesterday. Except for the whole digging. So I've had that utility pole laying here for over a year now, and I'm glad to have it finally in the ground. Rebecca has been mowing around that thing for a while, so she'll be happy as well. I tried to put this in as safe as possible, and everything was going fairly smooth until yesterday when I actually tried to put it in the hole, and then I quickly realized that this is actually way more dangerous than I thought it was. You could have easily had that that utility pole become overbalanced and tip back on you and hurt you. When you get that much of a utility pole sticking up in the air, it definitely could be dangerous. So we backed up today and we tried to do everything as safe as possible because I'm working alone. And I only have a tractor to do this with. This would have been a lot easier probably if I would have had a backhoe or an excavator. But only having a tractor, you're only got so much lift height. So after we got everything set up today, I think it went really well. It slid right in the hole. It just slid all the way down to the bottom. I was able to just lift it right in there. And yeah, it went fairly smooth. It took a lot of extra time to get that all set up. I dug that hole down to 5 feet deep as I could get it with those post hole diggers. And yeah, I think it turned out really good. The pole is very solid now too. Even though it's only a 5-foot hole, we've got that all tamped in all the way around it. And so, you know, as we filled it in. And yeah, it's very solid. And I think it's gonna work out just great. So it's actually sitting in the area that we're gonna make a laydown area for our farm equipment. So there's an old concrete pad back there, and we're getting ready to do some dirt work and put gravel down, but I needed to get this pole in the ground before I do any of that gravel work. Now there is a wire already in the ground over there for the utility pole. We're going to end up putting a light fixture there and an outlet because it'll just be handy in this location to have the dusk till dawn light and have some power. But I trenched that wire in actually back when we trenched in wire to the barn last year. So this wire has been sitting back here since last year. So this has been in the plan for a while. We're just finally getting to it. So once we get we'll come back, we'll get a light and an outlet on there. Then we'll do our gravel work. And then we're going to take that big carport up front. We'll finally move it here. So I'm planning on putting the carport on this north side over here. And then I'm just going to let the south side just be all parking on this side. That carport up front, I think we'll end up putting sides all the way down it, probably enclose the back side and make it a three-sided barn basically. And that'll give me a really good area to store stuff out of the weather. So I'm going to go ahead and enjoy the rest of the day. I hope you guys do too. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.